And now, your 5 o'clock news on Channel 14.
Welcome into WCTV's Newscast Live at 5. I'm Joe Shirillo.
And I'm Ethan Spazarski.
Waynesburg University's Criminal Justice Department received new equipment to put into their CAT lab. WCTV's Sarah Clegg caught up with the department chair's Kenneth Cairns to talk about the equipment in the lab for criminal justice students to use.
It is unique in any university in the United States. We have a couple pieces of equipment that nobody else has. One is our patrol simulator, which allows people to learn defensive driving and learn patrol techniques while in the safety of a simulated situation. We also have two MILO systems. MILO stands for Multiple Integrated Learning Objectives. These are systems that help students learn verbal de-escalation, learn firearm safety, and if needed, you learn use of force techniques. One of the things we emphasize with all our students is the best use of force is no use of force. If we can avoid it, that's exactly what we want to do.
Earlier today in the Beehive, it was Craft Day with a heart-shaped twist. The event was held from 2:30 to 4:30 p.m. in the Beehive and had a Valentine's Day theme. Students were allowed to make Valentine's Day themed crafts for their choosing of either themselves, friends, or significant others, with Valentine's Day just 8 days away. The next event will be held in the Beehive tomorrow night at 7, which will be a karaoke night for students.
Last month, esports began their season for the 2025 spring semester. Esports on campus and on colleges and universities around the country are gaining major steam and popularity. Here at Waynesburg, there are teams for games such as Rocket League, Super Smash Bros., Overwatch, and Fortnite. Next week, Michael McKenzie has more for us on the rise of esports here at Waynesburg University.
Yesterday, Josh Shapiro presented his 2025-26 budget proposal for the Pennsylvania General Assembly. The budget puts emphasis on workforce development and reduces healthcare, housing, energy costs, as well as investing in economic development. At the proposal, Shapiro said, quote, Pennsylvania is on the rise and has a budget that has a clear roadmap for tracking for challenges and building on the bipartisan foundation we've created over the last 2 years. My budget proposal is focused on solving problems for Pennsylvanians, expanding our workforce, cutting costs, and investing in the public safety and economic development.
Coming up, President Trump's comments on Gaza and the new transgender athlete executive order signed yesterday.
Plus, a dam floods in a 100-year-old home, and in Germany, 64 people are evacuated in a ski resort. All that next on the newscast.
Welcome back to the newscast, live at 5. Donald Trump triggered an uproar during his meeting Tuesday with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who wants to evict millions of Palestinians from their homeland so the U.S. can take, quote, long-term ownership, end quote, of Gaza and create what he calls the Rivera of the Middle East. CNN's Jeremy Diamond has reaction in Gaza.
In the ruins of Gaza, Sami Ramadan is determined to clear the rubble where his home once stood. And he is determined to stay. We will not leave. Occupation and colonization will vanish and we will stay, he says. As long as we live on this land, we will stay. We will die here. Even if in a tent, I will live in the ruins of my home. Like so many here, he swiftly rejected President Trump's proposal to permanently displace Gaza's 2 million Palestinians in favor of a U.S. takeover, and the president's rationale for doing so.
What's the alternative? Go where? There's no other alternative. If they had an alternative, they'd much rather not go back to Gaza and live in a beautiful, alternative that's safe.
But hundreds of thousands of Palestinians have decided to return to their homes. Alongside tents pitched amid the rubble, they have already begun to rebuild. They say they are undeterred by the scale of the destruction. I don't care what Trump says or anyone else. Look, my house is completely destroyed. There's not even a roof. But here I am. I am staying. Jordan and Egypt, the two countries Trump is pushing to accept Palestinian refugees, reiterating that Palestinians must be able to remain in Gaza amid what will be a years-long reconstruction. While Trump says his proposal is a humanitarian one, human rights experts call it a crime against humanity.
Their removal is equivalent to their forced exile, permanent and forced exile, the ethnic cleansing of Palestine, and the denial of their return, which is already a Palestinian condition.
So there's no question in your mind that what President Trump is suggesting here is ethnic cleansing?
There should be no question in anybody's mind. Trump is saying it himself, that this is about the removal of Palestinians. He's calling Gaza a home to 2.3 million people, a home to an indigenous people, a demolition site, because the U.S. funded that demolition by air, by sea, by ground. And now in order to complete the project, they want to remove Palestinians altogether and then to claim ownership of it.
Trump's proposal is being heralded on the right wing of Israeli politics, where lawmakers have long pushed for the forcible displacement of Palestinians.
Those who carried out the most horrific massacre on our land will find themselves losing their land forever. Now, with God's help, we will work to permanently bury the dangerous idea of a Palestinian state.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu calling Trump's proposal worth pursuing. But even as he stopped short of a full-throated endorsement, Netanyahu's broad smile said it all. He and the new U.S. president now speaking the same language. Jeremy Diamond, CNN, Tel Aviv.
President Donald Trump signed an executive order at the White House on Wednesday banning transgender women from competing in women's sports. In doing so, Trump said the war on women's sports is over. Trump was surrounded by dozens of women and some in young girls in athletic uniforms as he signed the executive order titled Keeping Men Out of Women's Sports. Critics of the transgender athletes have claimed they have an unfair advantage in sports. The order leans in compliance with Title IX, the law that prohibits disconfirmation in the basis of sex in educational programs or activities that have received federal funding. With this action, Trump is delivering on a political issue that was a key part of his 2024 campaign.
President Donald Trump's executive order to end birthright citizenship got blocked by a second federal judge. During a hearing Wednesday, U.S. District Judge Deborah Borderman said the order is unconstitutional and, quote, runs counter to our nation's 250-year history. The order was almost immediately met with several legal challenges, and a different judge placed it on hold. Borderman also said no court in the U.S. has ever backed the Trump administration's interpretation on this matter. The case in question was brought by 5 pregnant women in Maryland whose children could be affected by the executive order.
It was a hunting trip that could have ended tragically after a family became trapped in the snow in a remote Idaho county for 2 days. On Monday, the group was spotted by the Idaho Army National Guard and are safely brought home to their loved ones. Alexander Huddleston sat down with the family to hear more about what went right during the ordeal and how it ultimately helped bring them home.
The road, there's no sign of it.
Our loved ones had no clue what was going on or where we were. We never felt like we were in imminent danger, but we definitely knew that we needed to be rescued.
Monday afternoon, a group of hunters were rescued and brought home after getting stuck in the middle of a snowy desert.
And we were able to get ourselves unstuck several times, but we were only gaining a foot to 2 or 3 feet at a time. And so we did what we could to just stay warm, conserve energy.
We tried our best to make it an adventure for my grandson.
Did you go out and drink some snow?
Yes.
Tristan Galloway shared several videos and pictures of their time stuck in the desert.
Celia had upset on the phone, stormed into the waiting room.
My biggest frustration was being unable to physically change our circumstances where we're at.
I reached out to the Twin Falls Sheriff's Department, who said the best way to prepare for a trip like this is overpack resources and appropriate attire, and of course make sure friends and loved ones know the schedule and location of your trip. But Idaho Mountain Search and Rescue reached out to Idaho News 6 and praised the group, saying their preparedness for the situation was welcomed and appreciated.
And so we had plenty of food.
We had gear that would keep us warm, would keep us dry.
People to
First light, we got out and we cleared all the snow off.
And then we put fluorescent orange flagging tape on the top of the rack. And then on the antenna, my dad put an orange vest that kind of acted like a flag.
As Sunday went on and we continued to not be able to get a hold of them, that just kind of kicked it into another level.
I spoke with Tristan's wife, Megan, who explained she worked heavily with law enforcement and rescuers, giving them descriptions of the clothes the group was wearing, the color of the vehicle, and where the group would be hunting. Megan also shared what rescuers told her to relieve some of the stress.
We know it seems like it's moving slow, but just know there's a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes. They are working to get your people out.
A woman in Germany is dealing with a huge problem after a family of beavers set up camp near her 100-year-old house. The industrious rodents created dams upstream on the 77-year-old retiree's property, causing water to back up into it. She says the house is now cracking and sinking. She fears it may collapse or that she'll wake up one morning to even more flooding. Now she has to cover the cost of the damage herself.
In New Hampshire, 64 people were forced to evacuate from a ski lift after a medical issue kept them stuck on the lift for hours. Maria Wilson has the story.
It started as a normal day for about 60 skiers here at Cannon Mountain, but then their ski lift stopped working. It's because of a mechanical issue. Around 10:15, a bolt on the Peabody quad failed, forcing ski patrol to rescue skiers off the lift using a rope. Now the resort has closed the Peabody Express quad for today and tomorrow for repairs. But the mountain isn't fully closed. Other lifts are on a modified schedule for today. It took ski patrols about 2 hours to safely get all 64 skiers off the lift. It's a scenario the mountain's general manager, Jace Worth, says they train for, but they rarely have to deal with.
It just stops, and we stay for about 10 minutes until ski patrol finally comes down below us, and they yell up to us. They're like, we're working on getting you guys down and getting you out, and we'll try to get you out as fast as possible. And then within the next hour and a half, they finally got to us and got us down. But they were moving fast and doing the best they could, but it was tough being up there that long.
Now they are working to get that lift back up and running as soon as possible, but both skiers and management are looking forward to a day of some skiing again tomorrow. In Franconia, Maria Wilson, WMUR News 9.
That will do it all for national news. Coming up next is Kat Taylor with business and entertainment, but first we step outside with Anthony DeFilippo for a quick look at the weather.
Yeah, guys, Punxsutawney Phil the other day called for 6 more weeks of winter, and right now it's 47 degrees outside here in Greene County, and cloudy. It was raining this morning. Will it continue throughout the rest of the week? Find out later on the newscast, live at 5.
Oh, I didn't see you there. I'm Mia Hinkins, and welcome to Buell Hall, home of Waynesburg University's Department of Communication. If you visit our campus, you'll have the opportunity to attend some comm classes, enjoy lunch with our students, and watch us in action. We hope to see you here soon at Waynesburg University.
To schedule your personal visit, go to waynesburg.edu/admissions/schedule-visit. Come grow with us at Waynesburg University.
Welcome back to the newscast. I'm Kat Taylor with your business and entertainment update. By now, you've noticed the soaring cost of eggs at the grocery store, if you can even find them on the shelves. It's a problem that only seems to be getting worse. The nationwide egg shortage has led to higher prices and a lot of anxiety for shoppers. CNN's Brian Todd has the update.
A brazen heist reflects the desperation over eggs in the U.S. Authorities in southern Pennsylvania investigating the theft of about 100,000 eggs from the back of a truck at this distribution center. The take worth an estimated $40,000. It comes as eggs are in much shorter supply and prices are spiking. At Waffle Houses across the country, the menus now say there will be a temporary 50-cent surcharge for every egg you order. A tough hit since eggs are Waffle House's most ordered item. At grocery stores across the country, shoppers are frustrated.
It's outrageous. I just don't understand why egg prices got to be so high.
Is it going to change the way you kind of cook and shop?
It is, because I don't get that many eggs now.
The price of eggs spiked 2 years ago and is now spiking again, jumping 50 cents per dozen just between November and December. And in some places, eggs aren't available at all.
I went in and by God, they had everything but eggs.
The main culprit, a devastating outbreak of avian flu across much of the U.S., egg-laying hens having to be culled by the millions.
Just in the last year alone, we've had to euthanize more than 40 million birds, and we started this year by euthanizing an additional 15 million birds because of this deadly virus. It's absolutely devastating.
Also, strong consumer demand has fueled the shortage and the price spikes. The demand for eggs typically higher during the holiday season. And like many other crises these days, politics has crept in. President Trump mentioned eggs a few times on the campaign trail last year.
Eggs, all of this stuff, it's gone up at levels that nobody has ever seen before.
Trump promised to bring food prices down on day one. Now that the egg crisis has persisted, Trump's team has blamed former President Biden.
In 2024, when Joe Biden was in the Oval Office, or upstairs in the residence sleeping, I'm not so sure, egg prices increased 65% in this country.
But the reality, analysts say, is that the egg crisis is something no president can really control.
It's not President Biden's fault. It's not President Trump's fault. You know, it's what's going on in the industry and a virus.
And according to the Department of Agriculture, we'll have to endure spiking egg prices for a while longer. They're expected to increase another 20% this year.
I wish I could give people a little light at the end of the tunnel, but we need a sustained period where we have no new outbreaks to allow our industry to recover.
China has blacklisted the parent company of 2 American clothing brands. China's Ministry of Finance put PVH on its unreliable entities list. This puts Calvin Klein and Tommy Hilfiger clothing brands in the middle of a budding U.S.-China trade war. The announcement follows President Donald Trump's imposing a 10% tariffs on all Chinese imports. It's unclear why the Chinese government targeted PVH specifically. The clothing company said it will work with Chinese authorities to resolve the situation. Experts say being added to the list could bar PVH from doing business in China or lead to fines and other penalties. In September, Beijing said it was investigating PVH for, quote, violating normal market transaction principles, end quote, by boycotting cotton sourced from Xinjiang. However, the U.S. began banning all goods produced in the region during President Joe Biden's administration over forced labor concerns. Some people watch the Super Bowl for the game while others watch for the commercials. And companies spend millions of dollars for 30 seconds of your time. But the time it takes to make these ads is several months. In today's Consumer Watch, Jen Sullivan sits down with marketing executive to talk about the marketing magic that goes into making a Super Bowl commercial.
A high-stakes matchup for this year's Super Bowl, the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. But the stakes are also high for advertisers. Fox, the broadcaster of this year's big game, says some companies paid more than $8 million for a 30-second ad spot.
We went all in to make sure that we have the best story.
Ricardo Marquez is the vice president of marketing for Michelob Ultra, one of the many beer brands owned by Anheuser-Busch.
At Anheuser-Busch, 260 plus ads. We have a clear playbook on how to win the Super Bowl.
This year's 60-second commercial, called the Ultra Hustle. The ad features high-profile athletes being challenged by actors Willem Dafoe and Catherine O'Hara.
Would you consider playing us? For the Ultras.
In a friendly, yet highly competitive game of pickleball.
When it was pitched to me, I thought, this is funny.
We're in a friendly game of pickleball. We just happen to be animals on the court.
Creating this 60-second ad took almost a year of planning.
When we get to the production stage, securing talent, the director, a location, and then all the post-production work, all of that takes immense time.
Marquez says it took 5 days just to film the commercial. And the goal of all this hard work and time?
Brand recognition and ultimately, of course, sales.
In a digital world, they also measure success by the buzz and engagement their ad gets online. That's one of the many reasons why they release the commercial before the big game. And as soon as this year's Super Bowl ends, it's back to the drawing board to focus on next year's commercial.
The pressure and the privilege of being in the Super Bowl stage.
For Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
The day after Super Bowl Sunday, you can recover from your late night with a free coffee from Starbucks. Starbucks says it's offering 1 free tall, hot, or iced brewed coffee to its reward members anytime on Monday. If you aren't a rewards member yet, you can sign up Monday and still get a freebie. The move comes as the company rebrands after disappointing sales last quarter. Last week, Starbucks announced it will now be known as Starbucks Coffee Company as an attempt to bring back coffee house vibe. It's also announced a return of milk and sweetener stations in addition to free refills on some orders. Today's entertainment report features a pair of previews, a new movie opening this spring, and a new take on a classic you can see now. Here's David Daniel with the Hollywood Minute.
You know, this is all really intense, but I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm really sorry about this. I really am.
Here's your first look at Hurry Up Tomorrow, the film debut of Abel Tesfaye, better known as The Weeknd. He plays a musician with insomnia who begins to unravel the very core of his existence. Jenna Ortega and Barry Keoghan co-star. Tesfaye also co-wrote the film, which arrives in theaters May 16th.
I will not be afraid of death and bane. Till Burnham Forest come to Dunsinane.
Another turbulent tale is in theaters now. Macbeth, filmed for the big screen during its run at London's Donmar Warehouse. David Tennant and Cush Jumbo star in Shakespeare's classic tale of ambition, violence, and guilt. Tickets and showtimes are at macbethdonmarcinema.com. By the pricking of my thumbs in Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
That will do it today for your business and entertainment update. I'm Kat Taylor. When we return on the newscast, Seth Adams has your sports.
Welcome back to the newscast live at 5. I'm Seth Adams with your sports. Waynesburg University had another record broken this weekend at the Youngstown State Mid-Major by once again Quentin Reaver. He broke the mile record with a time of 4 minutes and 24.62 seconds, which was good for 12th place finish at the meet. Maggie Clare finished third in shot put, which puts her best throw of the season at 11.19 meters and is now 6th in the record books at Waynesburg University. The Waynesburg University basketball teams were off this week after both squads came off a loss Saturday to Allegheny. The men are now 7-13 overall, 5-10 in the conference, and now tied for 8th, and now are on a 3-game losing streak. The women are 10-10 overall and 5-10 in the conference and sit at 8th as well. Both teams are going to need a lot to happen to fall their way to sneak into the playoffs, and it starts with a doubleheader this Saturday against Westminster. Tip-off is at 1 p.m. And now let's get into some Greene County High School athletics. For girls basketball, Bishop Canevin traveled to West Greene yesterday and beat the Pioneers in a close game by 2, score being 43-41. On the boys' side, Mapletown headed to Fort Cherry and took a loss 73-12. And finally, California headed south to Carmichael's and defeated the Mikes 53-35. For Pittsburgh sports, the Pirates signed outfielder Tommy Pham this morning with a 1-year, $4 million contract. The 36-year-old has a career batting average of .258, and last year with the White Sox, he played in 70 games and totaled an average of .266. This is one of the few offseason moves the Pirates have made this year after coming off a 76-86 record and 5th in the NL Central. The Pittsburgh Penguins lost in a shootout on Tuesday 3-2 at home against the New Jersey Devils. The Devils were in control in the first half with a 2-0 lead over the Penguins nearing the end of the second period. However, Rickard Rakell would wrap around the net for the Penguins' first goal with 5 minutes left in the second period. Then on a 4-on-4, Kevin Hayes would receive a pass from P.O. Joseph in front of the net to tie the game 2-2 in the third period. The game went to overtime and no score, so a shootout was the way to settle it. Unfortunately, the Penguins were not able to take the 2 points, losing the shootout 3-2, giving the Devils the 3-2 win. The Penguins are now 22, 24, and 9 and 7th in the Metropolitan with 53 points. They play next tomorrow against the New York Rangers at 7 p.m. The NBA has had some craziness the last couple of days, but the big one being Luka Doncic to the Los Angeles Lakers for Anthony Davis heading to the Mavericks. The details of the trade are actually involved with 3 teams, the Utah Jazz being involved too. Let's start with the Lakers, who received Luka, Max Kleber, and Markieff Morris. The Mavericks received Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a 2029 first-round pick. Finally, the Jazz got a prospect and a couple 2025 second-round picks. This is labeled as one of the craziest trades in NBA history, turning a lot of people's heads, because Luka's averaging around 30 points a game for his whole career, and is 25 compared to Anthony Davis, who is 31. But this isn't the only trade, with Jimmy Butler being traded to the Golden State Warriors last night in a 4-way trade. The only real relevant move in this trade is Butler to the Warriors, Andrew Wiggins to the Heat, and Dennis Schroeder to the Jazz. That's all I got for you guys, but don't go anywhere. Anthony DeFilippo is up next with your weather.
Gotcha.
Yeah, what are you doing? We're on in 30 seconds.
Fading up to Tyler and Mia in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi, I'm Mia Hinkins.
And I'm Tyler Aaron, and welcome
to Jacket Sports Weekly.
Welcome back to the newscast live at 5. I'm Anthony DeFilippo with your weather for the week. As we kick off February, Punxsutawney Phil called for 6 more weeks of winter, and it looks like his prediction is holding true for the most part. Currently, we're sitting at 53 degrees here in Greene County with the listed high of 55. Rain has been a theme today, falling on and off throughout the day. Looking ahead to tomorrow, temperatures start to drop into the upper 30s and lower 40s. The high will be 38 with a low of 26 and no chance of rain. Saturday peaks into the 40s at 42 degrees. The low is 34 with a slight chance of ice in the early morning and rain throughout the day. Sunday dips back down with a high of 37 and a low of 24, just a 12% chance of any precipitation. Moving into the work week, Monday brings back 40-degree temps with a high of 40 and a low of 26. There's a 25% chance of rain or snow throughout the day. Tuesday brings a good chance of snow in southwestern PA at 65%. Snow will be on and off with around an inch of precipitation expected. The high is 35, the low 25. And finally, on Wednesday, temperatures match Tuesday with a high of 35 and low of 25, and the chance of precipitation jumps to 79%. That's your weather forecast for the week. Stay warm and keep an eye on the snow midweek. I'm Anthony DeFilippo. Now, back to Joseph Cirillo and Ethan Spazarski at the desk.
That'll do it all for us here on the newscast, live at 5 for everyone behind the scenes and in front of the camera. Thank you for watching.
Stay tuned to watch WCTV on our YouTube page and social media platforms for more Waynesburg content.
This has been a production of Waynesburg Community Television.